You think string is your ally. You merely adopted the floss. I was born with it, molded by it. I didn't know these actually came with cookies until I was already a man, and by then there's nothing to me. I didn't have a sweet tooth. Stick around and I'll show you how I built this mask and show you all the tips and things I learned along the way. So welcome to another video. His name is Kevin. I'm also known as AKAAWOL. And today I'm going to show you how I put together a mask. Right out the bat, I got a couple things I have to say. One is I cannot guarantee that this would protect you against viruses and stuff. It's really just more about a fashion thing, because I really honestly, I would have no idea whether or not it would protect you or not. So I don't want to get in trouble for that. Next, this is a pretty advanced tutorial. So I'm not going to basically cover quite everything, just the bits that maybe you might need a little help with or something, or, you know, kind of how I came about making it. If you have questions, if there's parts that you didn't understand, I can put that in separate videos, but otherwise this thing would probably take me about 3 hours to explain in great detail. So before I kind of get into this, let me show you how I started it. I took a piece of paper and I had this ruler, and what I did was I drew out the parallel lines, you know, to start with, right? And it turned out that this ruler is 1 inch going this way, right? So I was trying to get the parallel lines because I knew that I was going to have the diamond, and that way I could get it to be more shaped like this, like the N95 type mask as opposed to the flat ones. And I'd used the flat disposable masks and figured out that it basically should be like 6 inches from top to bottom. So I kind of had, with those two things in mind, I kind of laid out these lines. And how this ended up like this was because I knew I was going to cut out the segment of paper here, I needed something to hold it together when I was going to tape it. So that's kind of how this ended up like this. Now I could have just gone with the diamond and taped it and whatever, but that's exactly how that came like this. And it turns out that that worked out really good. So it was a 1/2 inch either direction off center, so that's basically 1 inch. And then I kind of ballparked sort of the angle here, you know, to try to figure out like how that would come. And then brought this across this way to here. Now, the distance between here and here is different here, because once I actually got to, like, say this point and I started realizing like kind of where that would be on my face, kind of nearish to like the cheekbone area, I kind of realized that it really kind of needed to start tapering in, and that was kind of a thing. So, and I have some video here to show you that will kind of explain what happened through this part. First off, when you change it up like this, it's very different than anything that you're used to. So when I had to try to improvise how I clipped it to the board to let it come together in that way. And the distance between the rows is different. So you have to kind of compensate for that, like by really getting that first knot in there really snug, and then bring the next one in and try to keep it consistent, which is of course a challenge. And that's why this thing is really all about being a incredibly difficult build. This isn't something that, you know, I would recommend to any beginner, honestly. If you're a beginner, follow my videos, learn, practice, and you'll get there. Something I did for you guys, though, is each one of these segments was basically like this. So this bracelet here was almost exactly 1 inch. So it's 24 strands. Like, now mind you, this isn't DMC. If I'd used DMC, that would be a little bit smaller. So you'll have to figure out the number of strands, but I did it this way so that way, if you wanted to, you could kind of take one of the photos and break it down and figure out exactly where I made all of the different segments, and you could figure out, that just how many knots there is in between each one of these, and be able to, fashion it for yourself. So I thought that would be kind of important and something that you guys might need to see. So yeah, that's what I did. Anyways, so after I got this joined and kind of got it down a little ways, you can see from this photo that it was opened and had to be knotted and closed off to bring that part in. And it was sort of, a lot of this build, honestly, was having a rough idea in mind of exactly what I wanted, but not a clear idea of how I was going to get there. And it was about trying to see how far did I have to go to get certain elements to that spot. So when I opened up for the side here, I wasn't sure whether or not this top green one was going to continue and be longer, but putting it against my face could tell that nope, that was pretty much right where that should end. So that was perfect. But then the bottom one, I knew that kind of needed to come around a bit because it was going under my chin and how I was going to anchor it. So that's why the bottom actually comes out a little bit longer than what the top was. It was about leaving room to work out and do it based on the feel. At that point, once I had the mask portion of this thing all done, right? Well, actually, I should probably explain something else that and it happens earlier on. So when you're doing this, right, I'm starting in the middle. And to do that, when you start in the middle, you just have string all over the place. So how do you get it to stop so that way you can get your first diamond made and join the diamonds and all that? So what I did was I found where the center is and then offset myself a little bit. And then I did like this, right? And just slowly worked this up to my spot there. And then when I put my clip on it, that kept that from going anywhere. And I could make my diamonds, right, to get it started. And then afterwards, I could just pull that right out. And that helped me greatly because obviously I had to do that 6 times. And then you have to put it all together and joining it. And mind you, doing it, I know that this looks like it's an easier thing because it's just chevrons, but it makes it harder because you really can't get far ahead when you're working it because you need the next row here to make the next row here to make the next row here. But I did this way so that way, basically you guys could count it out and be able to make one of these for yourself. Now, mind you, this was made specifically for me, and I'm a pretty big guy. So I'm not sure that that's going to be completely helpful, but if it gives you a better idea of what you need to do, then, so be it. Okay, so after I finished getting the whole thing to go around my face and to fit and stuff, the next was, where was I going to have this first rope come off? This is the first one I did. And I kind of grouped it together and tried it from up at this point here, and that kind of didn't fit right. And then I tried it again from down here, and that too didn't quite seem right. And I realized that right in the middle was a really good spot for it. So I did the thing like how I start my bracelets, where the loose ends, it wraps around, and it came from both directions till I got to the centers. And then I used my kumi disc to make this. And then I had ballparked the kumi, and it just turned out that this ended really nicely to where this part fits right around, I don't know what that spot is called, right in the back of the head there, but it worked out to where this will really hold the whole thing on my head just fine. And then, you know, even without these things tightened, right? So this is tied in a knot, and it fits me perfectly. Again, this is mine, not yours. So you got to make it for your own. And if you add hair, then you have to be kind of careful. You might want to do it more this way. These ones, I did them really super long, and then I did that macrame thing where I just have a little bit of the leftover scrap going across there, and that makes it so that way these will slide. And that's how I can tighten it around my neck and keep it not too tight, but comfortable, you know, right? So that's how that happened. Then, okay, so obviously I had a bunch of string left on the inside. So when I did these, you know, when this part here came over that middle diamond, you had all that string just kind of hanging out, right? But because I wasn't able to like go underneath several times to make sure it couldn't unravel, I was a little bit nervous as far as that possibly happening, like that could come undone or whatever. So what I did was I tied them off to itself, so that way you have two strings coming through two separate knots and they're next to each other. If you tie them both in a knot, there's no way that it can unravel. And then after all of these were tied, you know, in a row, I did that same thing like how I start and end the bracelets, and went in this way and then took the whole big group of them and tied it into one big knot. And these are far enough off they're outside of the nose area, kind of off into the part of the cheek, I guess. And that works out perfect because when this thing's curved in like that, it really is, it's nowhere near my nose or mouth, so I don't even notice that they're in there. Again, you're going to probably have to play with that and try to make sure that, you know, you land those in a way that it doesn't affect you, right? I haven't put any glue on it, although I am kind of considering maybe I might. We'll see. It's been washed and stuff already. I'm actually been using it when I go out. I'm not sure that anybody would even realize that I'm wearing a homemade mask like that, but it's cool. It's unique. And again, I did the difference in the colors. The different stripes are like this again, so that way you could see the very distinct 24, 24, 24, 24. So yeah, it's 24 times 6, right? So that's 144. So even if I don't sneeze in it, it's still gross. Ha ha ha. Okay, so number of skeins, it was I think it was like 40 skeins of embroidery floss. So as far as actually making this yourself, it's certainly not going to be cheap. I mean, 40 skeins is a lot of thread, and I really didn't have a whole lot left over when you count, you know, actually making the ropes and everything else. So again, this is, you know, really far from a easy build, and but at the same time, I mean, if it makes you happy, if it brings you joy, then by all means, this is where it's at. And I felt like somebody needed to make it, and I didn't see anybody else out there really, you know, giving it an effort. And now I'm kind of hoping that now that I've kind of led the way, that I'll see some variations and some different ideas based off of what I've come up with so far. I've seen the flat fabrics where they kind of fold it and stuff, and I think that would be maybe easier to do than this, but then it would be a whole lot of extra work of having, you know, how you have it folded and stuff, things that you wouldn't see, you know, that's kind of ends up on the inside a bit. And yeah, and I'm not sure that was necessarily a better way of going. This may be perhaps an easier way. So let me know what you think. Give me, you know, your ideas, your thoughts, whatever. Again, if you have questions, I know that I just kind of ran through this, but again, it was trying to keep the video shorter and give you a good idea of what it goes into it from the planning stages down to the actual finished product. So hopefully I've given you enough to be able to work on it for yourself. If you, again, any questions, I can, use it for future videos and possibly help, get you guys to make some cool things for yourselves. So until next time, don't get your strings in a bunch.